Good day all. Haven't shared Algernon in a bit, but there he is. And there's a cormorant swimming away, but there's Algernon's eagle. He's on the spitting rock right now because the flat rock where he has his breakfast is currently under the sea, as the tide is actually going out right now, but it's still high enough to cover his breakfast rock, the flat rock. Of course, the funny little cormorant just dove. It's a lovely, pretty morning. I thought I would just grab my camera, get a bit of my morning stroll about the garden, and show how sometimes I just take a little bit of inspiration from my morning and have some fun doodling and playing in the studio. Like, for example, this morning, the coloration of the, we had a few dry weeks, so this wild bittersweet, the leaves started to brown a bit, but then we had some fresh rain, so the berries, which have not turned their brilliant orange for the autumn, are beautiful chartreuse. Actually, the discoloration of the brown of the leaves is really inspiring, so let's just take this little snippet here, maybe even a bit with the house and the sea in the background, and then a close-up, and see what cute things we can come up with. And good hunting, Algernon. Your flat rock shall be back soon enough. Let's head off to the studio. So here I'm sharing just a quick rough sketch of the scene we just took in the previous shot. So this is me drawing digitally, capturing the screen. You can see I have various layers on, so I'm just kind of showing I have the image in another screen next to me, and then I'm drawing on my digital tablet. So here you can see I have a few layers. Now this is a really rough outline, and since I'm going to be using this to do printmaking, instead of making it into a sketch, what I'll do is I'll isolate areas and then fill them in with just solid black like this, so that I will be able to print them out. And then you'll see how I use it with my gelliplate. But so here's just some really, really rough sketching and a little bit of the bittersweet and the outline of the harbor and just a hint of the house across the way. And then we'll end up using this as a sort of template to draw on tracing paper, which then goes on to my gelliplate. And here you can see from my digital sketching I was doing, I have my, the other way, I have this tissue paper taped over the top, but this is just a inexpensive laser print. So what I did is I did my sketch, and since this is not meant to be a drawing, it's just meant to be a guide for me to use tracing paper, I kind of went through and just did a fill of black through areas I wanted to highlight. And then I place tracing paper over it, and then tracing paper is what allows you to take the image and transfer it onto your gelliplate. It does a really crisp, nice drawing, and it doesn't smear anything once it hits the paper, and then you build up as I shared last week. However, it might seem silly to do a drawing digitally and then fuss about to make it into almost like a pattern, and then lay down tissue and draw on that and turn that over. It's very many layers to get to the final single product. But why I like that is it's sort of what I've always loved about printmaking. I've always loved I'm sort of a person who is very much loving the journey more than the destination. The pattern of life seems more interesting to me than just getting to the goal. So for me, taking something that was that little video, which I turned into a snapshot that I took earlier in this video, where we were standing out looking at the bittersweet over to the view at our neighbors across the way, then sketching it, and then in my drawing software just kind of highlighting different areas and just turning them into flat negative space and printing that out just as a starting point. I feel like that gives you a big area to kind of go from. Then putting the tissue paper down, now I can draw over this, and I can add, embellish things as I go along before I finally put it on the gelliplate. And of course I can use this many times over to trace different things. So now for this video, because I won't have enough time to do this, do the layers and everything for this video, and I'm trying to get one video out a week, so I'm just going to set this aside. Normally I use painter's tape, but I just have washi tape right now, so I'll just set this aside. And I have a mini, like I have this little journal, and this is a little sample of me just testing out different things where I printed it. So what I thought I would do is I'll just take a piece of the tracing paper that I have here, and I thought maybe what I'll do, this is another little printout of, this is a sketch I made of ladies and sailboats, and then I made it very rudimentary in a drawing program so that I could play with it. So I'll just do a really quick study of this. Let's see, how much space does this page require? Probably got about that much. So basically this is the same steps and the same pattern I would be doing. So in this case, well, actually I need to sharpen my pencil here. Not super exciting. I'll try not to get it in my tea. The amount of things artists have drunk from teacups is probably, you probably fill a book. Okay. So I would normally tape this down, I'd have it all laid out, I kind of think about what I'm doing. But I'm just going to do this as a quick little study to put in my journal. So let's just say, it's also hard to draw with the camera in my way, so you'll have to take this for what it is. So let's just do a quick little drawing over it. And now again, this is an original drawing of mine, but I've turned it into just basic rudimentary shapes. But then as I'm at this stage where I'm sketching, I could take as much artistic license as if I want. Like if I want to give her a little bit more of a flourish to her hat, like this, say I want her hat to come down a bit more this way. Just representing a person, basically. And again, this is not going to be a finished piece or anything. It's just a quick little study in my book, but the process is the same. I want to show you how going from your own drawing to a sketch like this to play with. And if you are a person who doesn't feel that you can draw, or you don't feel confident in your drawing skills, you could take photos that you've taken yourself and use tracing paper just to kind of flourish and make your own designs with it if it gave you more confidence in creating art this way, because the result is still pretty much the same. So again, I'm only going to just do a little bit here, because then we'll put maybe a sailboat over here. Just a quick representation of a sailboat. Here we'll give us a horizon line. Put another one on the horizon line here. Again, this is just an outline to play with. All right. So now what I would do then, so say this is what I'm done with. I take this, then I take my jelly plate, and this is a new jelly plate, but I try to keep them in this condition. I use baby oil to clean them off, and they come with these plastic, and I always keep the plastic. If they run out, I just buy these clear sheets at Staples that I think they used to use for overhead projectors, but it does a good job of protecting them. So you take that, and I like that you can kind of line it up under there and see. I'm probably going to do it this way because I have just a tiny little book to put it in. So then you line this up. Again, I would normally use register marks. I usually put tape on my drawing table, but this is just a study, so sometimes I do just fuss about like this, because if I'm just having a faff and using my journal. So let's say we'll go like this. We'll put this down. You can see how as soon as it touches that. And then I don't have my brayer on me. Normally I have a brayer, which is like a printer's tool. You can use a credit card. Do I have a credit card sitting here? Anything really. Anything just to like kind of help press down the impression so it goes on the jelly plate. And even just using your hands, or if you have a dry brayer, you could do that. So then you lift this up. Now you can't tell now, but watch when I set this on a piece of white paper. The image is now transferred onto here. And look, I just got, we'll call that a happy accident. We just got some of the shavings on the sky, but it might turn out okay. So then that would be that. So then next you would build up. Now this is your outline, and then you'd lay down whatever colors you want to be in the front. And since this is, again, just going to be a quick little press in my little journal, I'm just gonna, just for the sake of it, I'm just gonna, this is not gonna be exact, but I'm just gonna lay some, this is a Posca paint marker. Normally I would take much more time to do this. But you know what, let me shut the camera off and I'll put some stuff on here and then see what we have. Alright, now you have to let the layers dry. And normally when I'm doing a painting or a print this way, I would paint certain areas, let it dry, add detail, let it dry, and build it up. Again, it's the process of working on something, and it's that element of printmaking that I really love, but the jelly plate makes it kind of concise into one little thing. So I mixed up a sort of bluey green here, and then I'm just going to dab a bit on here because this layer is dry, but now the final layer that you pull with needs to be wet in order for the page to pick it all up. So let's just quickly, so now this will be the final color, so any spaces you've left open on your painting will have this color through. It will add a depth to other colors that are more transparent. But again, this is just a simple study for my art journal, and I love doing studies. It turned out my sketchbook, that sketchbook isn't right, so I'm just going to use this sketchbook. Let's open a random page here. And normally, again, you would, if you were doing this as a final print, you'd have register marks with tape on your drawing table and everything. But this is just going in my sketchbook to look at later. So I'll set this down. And then what I do is I grab books. And we just pile books on here. And this isn't going to be that exciting because I'm going to have to pause the camera. And again, normally I would let it sit probably overnight, but for a study like this, I'm just going to let this sit for probably about a couple of hours, and then I will turn the camera back on and we can see how it turns out. So it's been a couple of hours. So we'll take our book off here, flip our journal over, and you can already see through the clearness of it, which is another reason I like using the jelly plate. And then we'll just peel back our jelly plate here, see if it's dry. I didn't really give it that much time, but for the purpose of, oh yeah, there's a little bit of paint left, for the purpose of getting this video out on Sunday. And again, this is just for my journal, it's not as if it's a finished painting. Yeah, it probably could have stand to dry considerably more. You can see the white page, white coming through the page. But it gets the point across. I just wanted to show an abridged version of the process, and I will share the process even more. And you could do a ghost print, maybe not in this case because it didn't get a chance to dry. But you can see the little bit of outline, and there wasn't much detail in this. Again, this was just to do a little study. Like just this morning, I did a little study practicing bittersweet design where I just did the same thing, drew on tracing paper, transferred it onto the jelly plate, inked a little bit on the jelly plate, popped it onto my journal, let it sit for a couple of hours, take it off. And I do like to use my jelly plate in the journal. In fact, maybe I'll share this journal as I go through this coming year of the different things I like to do studies, because this would be an example of me trying a study of like, oh, maybe I want to see how this color works, or do I like this sort of a composition. Again, don't judge this piece of artwork. It's very, very rough. I just wanted to show the process. Again, probably more steps than when needed, but again, for me, it's the journey. So I snapped a photo with you, actually, of the bittersweet. In this case, obviously, I didn't do the bittersweet, but I did, you know, do the drawing, which turned into this, and then I'll finish drawing this out, and then I'll layer it, transfer it onto the jelly plate, and I'll probably work on it for a few days, etc. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I do want to share more of my art going forward, so I hope you enjoyed this funny little moment in the studio, filling another page in my journal with our jelly plate and tracing our own artwork. And as I said, if someone wanted to didn't felt they were good at drawing, but like this idea of transferring, they could easily transfer over their own photos, or they could lay down leaves and draw over that. So, well, that's it for today's little studio vlog. So I guess maybe we'll close out today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, thank you for joining me for today's vlog. Hope you enjoyed what we got up to. Just thought I would close with the fact that it's a gorgeous sunny day. The tide is out, it's starting to come back in. And I wanted to show our neighbors across the harbor are having a big family wedding this weekend. So I meant to get a shot earlier when they were first starting to set up the tent. But it's a couple days till the wedding, so none of the family are at the house yet, but it's the people setting up the tent are arriving, and I think I saw some other like party planning vehicles and things, so it's really pretty. I'm hoping for them, praying for them to have weather like today on the day of the wedding in a couple days. What's funny is I remember, it seems like it was just yesterday, but I believe it was 2006 when they first were doing the giant addition on their house. That summer, which is right about this time, they had put up a big tent because they were having a big family wedding then, and they were trying to get their addition done enough in time for that. And it's funny to think that generation, which just seems like yesterday, is now the generation behind this current generation that's getting married. It should be a lovely, lovely event. And I believe they're going to be having fireworks at the end of it as well, so I'm going to try to, I'll see if I can get footage, but every time I try to do fireworks footage, it's never quite as pretty as you think it would be. You look at it through the camera lens and you think, oh, that's lovely, and then the footage is just dark with a bit of sparkle, but I'll still try. Well, thank you for joining me for today's vlog. I hope you enjoyed everything, and until next video, remember, stay creative. Cheers!